All right, Mary. So if I understand this correctly, you've been diagnosed with ADHD, anxiety, depression, and you've experienced an eating disorder.
Right.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Very
Okay,
much.
well, why don't you tell me your story?
Okay. Well, I think that started when I was really young, maybe when I was born, but I can only remember when I think back to like the first grade, feeling really anxious and stuff. But back
And what
then,
was that like? Yeah, when you were first grade, 6 years old. What does anxiety look like?
It's fear. It's not being able to be comforted or soothed very easily. It's not like, not feeling comfortable. And, I would go to sleep really scared and have racing thoughts about war happening. And this was a really long time ago, and things like that. And it was just something I felt out of control, actually.
Yeah, and how did your parents or your mom or whoever was around, how did they handle that when you'd get that way?
Not the way I would hope. At the time, I didn't really realize it, but people didn't know a lot about mental health issues. It was a thing like where parents were blamed and kids were shamed. So you didn't really talk about it, but you walked around and just felt different from everybody and misunderstood and alone. And I didn't have anyone to really talk to, but I didn't really realize that, I had something I needed to talk about.
So how old were you when you realized that you had something that you needed to talk to somebody about?
I was in the 6th grade, I believe. My depression has gotten to the worst point at that point. They weren't really able to diagnose me yet because I was a minor, but I knew that I felt pretty hopeless about my future. I thought everything, like I was an exception to the rule. I thought everybody else can grow up, get married, and graduate, and have kids, and drive. And I just didn't really think I was going to have it. And I slept a lot in school, and I was making bad grades. Didn't really have a lot of friends. I was kind of miserable, and I just didn't really think I was going anywhere. So I ended up having a suicide attempt, and then that was when I started getting help for my issues. And up until the point where the librarian at my school found me, I didn't tell anybody, but after that, the cat was out of the bag and I had to kind of talk about it.
Yeah, so you attempted suicide at school in the 6th grade?
Yep, I actually overdosed on my medication the night before, and I knew that the medicine I was on made me really tired. So I thought if I took one every day that made me that tired, like what if I took the whole bottle? And I kind of thought I would just sleep, not wake up. And I made it, and somehow I got woken up and taken to school. And I just my teacher let me go to the library to finish a test because she thought I was just falling asleep. And that's when the librarian woke me up, and I had foam coming out of my mouth and my eyes were dilated. So they got me to the hospital, and from there I started my mental health journey of getting help and having counseling, and I started learning different ways to cope and having the support that I didn't realize, I could have had, before that happened.
Yeah. So what were some of the things that, your family and your teachers and your therapist and doctors, what were some of the things they did to help you?
Well, the teachers, I think they thought I didn't care or I was lazy at first because I was always sleeping and stuff. And, but after that happened, it got to where I felt a little bit more protected because, I had counseling. So I was excused from school for when I had to go have appointments. I was in and out of the hospital a few times as I was growing up. I had a little bit of a different lifestyle, and eventually I was even put into a foster care system for a couple of years, and I ended up aging out of the system, but it helped a lot because I was, still in counseling, and I was just I wasn't doing very well in my home life.
Yeah. What would some of the counselors tell you to do to help you?
A lot of it was I wasn't taking very good care of myself. I didn't have very good self-esteem, and I didn't really I didn't sleep very well. I didn't eat very well. I just kind of did, fell asleep during the day, stayed up all night. I was really disorganized. I've been put on medicine for my ADHD, which helps me focus a lot better.
So how are you doing now?
It's day by day. I like to think I'm in recovery, because I think I'm going to have these illnesses for pretty much the rest of my life, but it's the way I deal with it. I get to talk about it. I get to, have a weekly therapist appointment. I have my medication. I see my psychiatrist. My doctor, she takes care of me she sees me every 1 to 3 months just to check my blood work and everything, make sure I'm okay medically with me, like my eating disorders. And And I use a lot of different coping strategies now. Like, I'm usually not very good at eye contact, but I try to make myself. And
You're doing great with me.
thanks. You are easy. But I also like to do things like I'll use different colored pens to like write papers and to keep myself like entertained, because it's hard for me just to sit and listen to someone. So I feel like I listen better when I'm like writing. I can write a whole page and partially listen to the conversation, but it's more relaxing for me than if I was just sitting there and feeling like I needed to do something and I couldn't.
Yeah. When you were this just young little thing and all of this stuff is going on and the world just isn't making any sense to you and you're just anxious all the time, what would you have loved for people in your world to do to support you and help you?
Well, I felt a lot of anger and resentment, and like my teachers, they were frustrated with me because they probably just didn't know how to help me, and I took it as they're mad at me, and oh no, here's one, like I don't have my work again, and I'm having another detention, and I kind of took it as they're mad at me, and so it was like I kind of wish that I would have been able to talk to them a little bit easier, whether they actually talked to me. Or if I could have talked to them, because when I was trying to commit suicide, I planned it and I thought about it for a week or two before I actually did it, and I didn't tell anybody, and then I ended up making the decision to try it. Mm-hmm. And if I could have talked to someone when I first started thinking about it, maybe it would have made a difference with prevention. And I wish I had known that I had someone I could have talked to.